Hey guys, it's Bishozzy here.
And welcome to episode 42, the mid-season review of my AS Monaco series episode. And
Well, AS Monaco series is not really an episode series, is it? Well, I guess it is. Anyway, enough talking about that. Let's get straight into it because I want to make this episode, a little bit shorter than I usually do. Transfers, first of all, we have done quite a bit of activity, which obviously isn't, well known to me, especially in the January window. I do like to strengthen in the preseason, but as you can see, we have brought in two big signings. We'll do the ins first. First of all, we signed Hernando, a Brazilian from Sao Paulo, for 17.5 mil. And as you can see, he's another right back, absolutely like world class right back. Well, he will be in the future, I believe. Amazing defensively, very good going forward. Pace is somewhat lacking, I guess. Strength is probably decent enough for a fullback. Leadership's good, positioning, concentration, all fairly good. Determination a little bit on the low side. He is a non-EU, so that does take up one of my slots, but I did have two free ones anyway. So yeah, brought him in. Quite expensive, but I did have to pay, and I wanted to have two class right backs that I could call upon, and give Kleber a bit of competition in that starting right back slot, without having to play a 17-year-old as his backup. And the next player I brought in was the player I was mentioning about in the mid-season review, not the mid-season, the AC Milan Livecom game, and that is Richard Hernandez from Granada for 26.5 mil, which was his release clause. As you can see, absolute world-class striker, 20 finishing, 16 heading, 16 composure, 17 off the ball, 16 pace, 17 strength. What else can I say? Absolute world-class. Bit of a bargain, to be honest, at the price I paid for him. Can also play as a right winger as well. And he also, if you look at this, has Spanish nationality, if I can get my word out. So he does not count as a non-EU player. So very good stuff there. If we go into our outs here, only one player left the club, and that was Ikem Muniain, who left to Real Madrid for 7 million. At 29 years old, his stats were starting to decrease a little bit, so decided to sell him while he's still, I guess, in his prime, sort of. So yeah, they bought him for 7 mil. Good to get him off the books. He was on 90k wages, so that was good to get out. And kind of, well, I guess he didn't really fund anything, to be honest. But if you look at the season, like total, we've still made 130 million this season. Um, where does all that money come from? Oh, Gomez. What am I thinking? So we sold Gomez at the start of this season, obviously, and that has basically, funded these two transfers plus more, I guess, because there's still you know, what are those two added up is, still what, like 30 million plus profit on Gomez. So that is that. We get into the we'll get into the league table first of all. As you can see, we are 1 point behind PSG at the moment, which is, to be expected at this time of the year. We are usually always fighting them at this point, around the mid-season mark. But obviously, we usually tend to crash and burn in the coming games, well, towards the end of the season, really. But obviously, hopefully, strengthening the team with those two, world-class players will actually give us a bit of strength heading into the second half of the season. If I have a look at PSG's squad, as per usual, they've spent nearly 100 million strengthening their squad in January. So we'll have a look at their history right now. As you can see, massive amount, 184 million total spent this season. That is ridiculous. They've only brought 27 million in fees, and that was from selling, two players. So if we have a look at their two signings of the January transfer window, the first of all was the absolute Spanish, maestro striker. He can play AMC, which is why I call him the maestro, because that's where he was playing for Barca. But they bought him for 62 million. And I mean, he's a world-class striker, to be fair. Not a very good AMC, but still. The pace to burn, strong in the air, 24 years old, decent composure off the ball and finishing as well, I guess. But if you think about my guy that I signed, you know, I mean, he's nearly what? Well, he's basically half of what they paid, less than half. The other player they signed was Juan Escudero for 34.5 mil from Manchester United. Very good left winger, but hasn't really played much, to be fair. As you can see, never really played much, and probably could have been a lot better, a lot better player had he actually got a lot of game time. So yeah, he's also averaged a 6.8 in his first game, which is pretty good for me to see. And yeah, that was basically it for them. They let this player go, don't know who that is, don't really care. So we are 1 point behind them. Obviously we have a lot better goal difference, which is, something I haven't really seen before. We've only conceded 19 goals in the league so far. We've actually scored more than PSG, which is again, is something I haven't really seen so far. So 70, so we've got 6 plus scored more than them, I guess, which is, beneficial. And of course, we actually have them in the next game after this, in the Coupe de Ligue semi-final. But let's get into the fixtures now. We'll head back to the AC Milan game. There it is. The game after we beat FC Lorient 3-0 at home in the league. Santi Benez continuing his goal-scoring form from the previous game against AC Milan. And Campos also picking up a brace, getting man of the match there as well. The next game was Bordeaux. We beat them 6-1, which is, how much... well, you can see how much, Bordeaux have fallen from grace, I guess. Santi Benez with a hat-trick this time. Ersteprak, Campos, and Fabiano also on the score sheet. FC Metz was up next, beat them 2-1 away from home in League 1. Santi Benez with a brace and our former player Riviere getting on the score sheet for them. We then faced Bate Borisov, beat them 6-0 in the group stage. Clement picking up a hat-trick for himself. Vicente, Santi Benez again, and Fabiano, with Clement obviously being man of the match for his hat-trick. Auxerre, we beat them 5-0 in the league. Ersteprak with a brace, Faure and Clement on the score sheet with a Kone own goal. Next game was Valenciennes. We beat them 1-0 away from home. Not as straightforward, but again, Santi Benez scoring. Lutzi picking up man of the match for his defensive displays at left back. Yeah. And we also had to play a youth player at right back because we had no fit right backs, which is one of the reasons why I brought Hernando in. Next up was Shox Monteb. We beat them 6-2 at home in the league. Their former player, Clement, getting on the score sheet, actually opening the scoring. Fabiano with a brace, Ersteprak, Santi Benez, and Vicente on the score sheet for us there, with Clement picking up man of the match against his former club. We then beat Granada 4-0 away from home. They aren't that good of a team, and obviously, Hernandez picked up a 5.6, which, I didn't really acknowledge at the time. But Campos opened the scoring for us. Tesserin got a penalty. Vicente and a Juan Carlos own goal. The next game was against PSG, and as you can see, we did lose 3-2. And if we have a look at the goal, who else but Andriy Yarmolenko in the 90th minute? Yes, that's right. Again, in the 90th minute. Pretty much, the exact same result, the exact same goal scorer at the exact same time as last season. So, as you can see, we did open the scoring through Ersteprak, went 2-0 up through Matip. They got one back through Fierro and then Ferreira, and then obviously they got a player sent off in my former player, Kondogbia, and then Yarmolenko. With 10 men, Yarmolenko scores in the 90th to screw us out of staying ahead of PSG at this time, actually. We were, I think it was 2 points ahead of them, so that's why we are now one behind. The next game was the Coupe de la Ligue 4th round. We beat FC Metz 3-2 away from home. Pereira, Ulrich, and Vicente on the score sheet with Fabiano picking up man of the match. There, we then returned to league action, beat SC Bastia 4-0 away from home. Campos with a brace, Pereira, and Boucher on the score sheet. Marseille was up next. We beat them 2-1 at home. And, always good to beat Marseille because they are, probably the third strongest team behind myself. They opened the scoring through Roquez. Kanga got us a goal, and a Coezy own goal gave us all 3 points there. Schalke was up next in a friendly because we had quite a long gap between the two games, and we beat them 3-2. As you can see, Boucher, Pereira, Santi Benez, bit of a second string team, kind of, with Granier, Boucher in there. Vicente started as well. The next game up was the Coupe de France 9th round. Again, we versed FC Metz in a cup competition this year, or this season. They opened the scoring through an own goal through Thomas. Ersteprak got on the score sheet for us, as well as Ulrich, and Ersteprak picked up man of the match there. FC Lorient in the Coupe de Ligue quarterfinal was up next at home, and we beat them 3-1. Goals coming from Ersteprak, Lutzi, and Santi Benez, and Bigger Mutombo got one for Lorient, which is an interesting name. We then faced Lille in the Coupe de France 10th round and beat them 5-0, which is pretty convincing. They opened the goal through a Panda. It's an interesting name, own goal. Gonzalez on the score sheet, Santi Benez with a brace, and Kanga. Four of our goals coming in the first 18 minutes, and obviously Santi Benez picking up another one fairly late on in the game in the 81st. St Etienne, nil all draw, not going to go into it. Pretty disappointing at home to, draw with St Etienne. They're not the team they were last season as well, which again, pretty disappointing. Sabradas was up next and we beat them 2-1 away from home in the league. Campos opened the scoring in the 3rd minute and Gonzalez got one in the 56th. Angers SCA was the last game I played, and as you can see, we absolutely romped them 7-0. They did get a red card, but we were, 2-0 up already. Kleber opened the scoring through a penalty. Kanga got one a minute later. They got a player sent off. Ulrich got a penalty, and he also scored again in the game, so he got a brace. New signing Richard Hernandez, starting his first full game for the club, got a brace for himself, and Ersteprak got on the score sheet as well. And as you can see, Hernandez did pick up man of the match in his first full start for the club, so very good, a 9.6 match rating, and I'm happy with that. So let's go a little bit down. As you can see, we have drawn Sevilla in the first knockout round of the Champions League. So obviously I expect to progress. They are a half-decent team, probably the 3rd or 4th best Spanish team, behind Atletico, Barca, and Real, sorry. I mean, Sevilla are probably up there with Atletico, to be honest, because Atletico have sold quite a few good players. And yeah, so I do expect to go through. This next game against PSG will be very interesting. Obviously, it is a semi-final, so if we do win it, we will get into the final of the Coupe de la Ligue, which we also made the final last season. The other thing I want to mention about my new signing... Where is he? I'll just jump into tactics for a second. Apologies. Hernandez. Alright, so he did play, obviously, for Granada in the Champions League, so he is now, obviously, cup-tied, so he won't be able to play in the Champions League, but obviously I'm not too worried about him in that competition because I did buy him to obviously score massive amounts of goals in the league and hopefully bring us our first League One title. So I just thought I'd mention that as well because he won't be allowed to play for the rest of the Champions League this season. But I'm not too worried about that. We've got Vicente, we've got Santi Benez, who has been in crazy form this season, and he actually complained when I brought Hernandez in, which is not ideal. But I said, prove to me that you deserve your place, and he was up for the challenge. So hopefully that's good. I want to jump into finances very quickly before we end the episode here. As you can see, we're not too well off, to be fair. We did just get a new general sponsorship deal for 20 million for until the end of next year, so that's pretty good. But obviously we're only sitting at just under 46 million. I mean, obviously don't really look at the projected balance because that doesn't factor in Champions League money and stuff like that. But yeah, we're not sitting too well off, to be fair. We did obviously buy the stadium as well at the end of last season, so we now own the stadium. I do want to build a stadium in the future, hopefully, after myself. How do I look at the overview? No, we want general. I'm just going to look for myself and see if we're actually here. We should be, to be fair. We've won the club quite a bit of silverware. But as you can see, some of the legends of the club, Matip, Campos, Matinho, all three have played under me. Then further back, we've got Kanga, Arsene Wenger, that's pretty good. Papadopoulos is also an icon. Marin, it's pretty surprising that he's an icon. Aubameyang, obviously, and Carrasco's favoured personnel. So Carrasco, who barely played for me, is more highly regarded than myself. So yeah, that is interesting. But yeah. Anyways, that's probably going to wrap this episode up. Hopefully you've enjoyed this mid-season review. If you had, could you please give this video a like and a favourite? That would be amazing. And if you are not a subscriber already, please head over to my channel and do so, and that'll keep you up to date with these episodes. Goodbye, guys.